Good evening, I'm Laura Lee.
And I'm Dan Wolf. Thanks for joining us. The Wisconsin DOJ is investigating tonight after a Superior police officer shot two people while responding to a call.
It happened around 6:30 last night near 5th Avenue East and East 7th Street near Superior's Central Park.
Authorities say two Superior police officers were responding to a call of a person with a knife who was inside a home with another adult. And when officers arrived, they found the person holding a knife. And at some point, one officer fired their weapon, hitting both the person with the knife and the other adult. Both those people were taken to the hospital.
Well, tonight, Mayor Jim Payne tells us they are expected to survive. As for the officer involved, authorities have not said what led them to fire their weapon, but we do know no officers were hurt. The officer who fired their weapon is now on standard administrative leave. Well, Sunday's incident marks the third officer-involved shooting in Superior since December.
Now, those previous shootings happened in April when a man was killed during a struggle with an officer on Oaks Avenue, and in December when officers and a man exchanged shots before he drove into Superior Middle School. He later surrendered without further incident. A Superior police officer was shot but survived.
Well, Northern News Now's Sophia Lauber joins us live from the scene of yesterday's incident where she spoke with neighbors today. Sophia, what have you been hearing?
Lauren, Dan, this is a quiet residential neighborhood. I'm standing here next to a park where kids have been out playing for the last hour or so. Residents here tell me they were shocked by the incident, but they also say they have a lot of questions that have gone unanswered so far. One resident I spoke with here today tells me that no matter the facts, the first thing that pops into her head in these situations is the use of force justified? In light of Superior's officer-involved shooting on Sunday, neighbor Royanne Killeran reflects on last month's.
Even the one that I heard about on Oaks, I never got very much of an understanding of what really would have caused it to be necessary to use a gun versus perhaps a taser or just shake them down.
Former Cook County Sheriff and now de-escalation consultant Pat Eliason says regardless of the situation, communication between law enforcement and the public is key in use of force incidents.
The transparency has to be there, because if it's not there and these divides are created, they're never going to go away and they're just going to get bigger.
Eliason adds they also highlight the importance of training.
Yeah, those moments, you know, they are split-second moments. And as a peace officer, you have to remember every statute you've ever learned about use of force. You have to remember every piece of training.
Superior Mayor Jim Payne tells me he's proud of the measures the department has taken to reduce use of force incidents. Following each, they conduct an internal review of policies and training while an independent investigation takes place. Police Chief Paul Winterscheidt says he remains committed to sharing as much information as possible without impacting the integrity of investigations.
I've had a lot of faith in this department, so I have not had any reason to think anything but highly of them. So I hope that they give us the facts and we'll know what happened and that it's dealt with appropriately.
The department will hold a press conference tomorrow morning at 11 where they plan to share more information as well as body camera footage from Sunday night's incident. They say they also expect to release results from the investigation into April's officer-involved shooting. Live in Superior, Sophia Lauber, Northern News Now.
Sophia, thank you. Now, we will be at that press conference and we'll be streaming it live tomorrow. You'll be able to watch it by downloading our mobile app and on our website.